but I don't think he's as good as people think anymore. I got Ryze moved up to tier 1. He's like, oh my god, Element's moved a champion that was like tier 4, tier 3 up to tier 1. Oh my god, wow. Well, yeah, shit happens. Champions get overlooked, yada, yada, yada. He's really great now. That's all I'm saying. It's not that he was like bad before or anything. It's just that he wasn't that popular. People weren't prioritizing him as a pick. So now people are really understanding that, Ryze late game is, I'd say one of the strongest, if not the strongest single caster in the game when it comes to like past 40 minutes, 45 minutes. If you get a full itemed Ryze, he's incredibly hard to deal with. The tank potential, the damage potential, and the survivability with his, just how much he tanks, and then on top of the spell vamp is really insane. And his laning phase is okay. He's not like the strongest laner, but it's just making it to that point in the game where you have a lot of items and you've done well. He just becomes this like unstoppable force, and that's what really people are realizing, and I'm realizing is that that's really a strong thing to have in competitive play. So I am moving up to tier 1 because of that, because it's just his ability to carry a late game is so amazing. That's really it. I mean, he's a decent champion all throughout. That's why he was like tier 3 or tier 4. I can't remember exactly where he was. He's decent throughout the whole thing, and then it's just it kind of clicked. It's like, oh my god, he's unkillable late game, and he's just this carrying machine. So I really feel like Ryze is a really strong pick in competitive play right now because of that. Twisted Fate moved up to tier 2, just because I feel that he was a little low. I just think he should be a little bit higher. That's all. Nasus moved into tier 2. Nasus is kind of like the Ryze effect. His ability to carry a late game is just so strong, and that's really what sets him apart from other champions. Is that even if you die out in lane or you're not doing that well, as long as you're farming decent and you make it to that late game, Nasus is just so strong. The Wither, it just counters lots of AD and Bruiser champions just so well. Wither is actually like really, really, really strong, and Nasus is just crazy late game, can't be stopped like Ryze, but Bruiser style. But again, his laning phase is okay. He farms well, gets beat by a lot of champions though, so that's why he's only tier 2 and not tier 1. Talon has been moved up to tier 2. I would have had him tier 1 before, but since his nerfs and people kind of realizing how to play versus him, he is a tier 2 champ. He's not tier 1 worthy in my opinion. He's got a great burst potential. He assassinates people really well. It's just his laning phase got hit a little bit, and that's all I feel. So I am placing him into tier 2 because of that. We got here Sion. Sion I had low because I always thought of Sion as like a bruiser, and people always started playing him as AP middle, and that's really strong because a lot of APs can't deal with Sion, and it's kind of like this like revelation that everyone has, like, oh my god, why don't we just throw Sion middle, and he's amazing, right? Like, and it's really become popular now, and it's quite strong as well. You get mobility boots and stuff. You just run up, stun, burst enemy caster, and they really can't do much versus it. So instead of throwing him top lane bruiser, where a lot of these bruiser champions were beating him, and that's why people were like, oh, Sion's not as good as we think, but like switch it up, throw him middle, and casters just really can't deal with him. So I'm moving up to tier 2 because of that. He still can be countered by some casters, and you can still lane swap. But I feel that he can competitive play. We're going to start seeing Sion a little bit more. So that's why I'm placing him up into tier 2. Udyr I had like tier 4 for some reason, which was like, I have no idea why he was that low. Definitely a tier 2 champ. I just think it was like a mistake on my part for having him that low, so I moved him up, back into tier 2. Skarner got a whole bunch of buffs, way better now, so I am placing him into tier 2. He's kind of like an Udyr, with I'd say like less utility, but how do I say this? I don't know. He's got less utility, but his ultimate is a lot better now, and he's just someone who's hard to kill, goes and does damage with a little utility, and that's pretty much what Udyr is. And Skarner can do that. He's an incredibly fast jungler now too. He's got really good laning, and the utility from his ultimate is really good. That suppression is really strong now, and that's how I feel about Skarner now. Those buffs really helped, and I'm placing him up into tier 2. Tryndamere I put into tier 3. That's probably a little bit too low. I think Tryndamere could even be higher, but I'm taking little baby steps right now. His laning phase is just so incredibly strong, and then his late game is so incredibly strong too. I actually think tier 3 is kind of like a joke, me placing him there, but I thought I had way too many champions in tier 2, which now that I look at it, doesn't really seem that bad, but I am going to do another update in a week, as I said, so I'll move stuff around one more time, because it's been so long, so we're going to get 2 updates out. But yeah, Tryndamere overall, just crazy strong. He can be countered with like exhaust and stuff like that, but if you guys seen those new summoner spells coming out, cleanse is going to counter that. But even with that, he just has the laning potential to beat almost any top lane champion. I don't really know who really counters Tryndamere that well, other than maybe throwing like a Cassiopeia top to counter him, to really like zone him out. But other than that, I feel that Tryndamere is just really strong, and tier 3 is probably a little too low. Moramos moved up to tier 3. I think Samus might be even higher too, but I'm just putting him there for now because, it's okay. 1 sec, milk break. Moving on to Riven. Riven I moved up to tier 3 because of her recent buffs and because of her laning phase. She's one of those champions that her laning phase is like pretty good. Some champions counter, some champions don't. But if you get her to late game, she's just insane. Like one of the most insane late game champs in terms of just raw damage she can dish out. With her ultimate and some decent items, I've gotten up to like 500 non-critical auto attacks on her, and I think that's just ridiculous. But I find it's kind of hard to do that with her. Because getting to that point is difficult, so that's why I put her into tier 3. But it's like if you can do that and you have if you have the right lane matchup, she can be incredibly strong. So that's why I did move her up. But she does have her counter, so that's why she's going to remain in tier 3. Wukong moved to tier 2 because he's gotten a lot of how does it say it? Attention lately because. He's becoming a viable top lane bruiser. A lot of people really thought he sucked. Really thought he was bad. Then he got a little bit of buffs, and then he got some changes, and now he's finally coming up to the light. He's kind of that. Started out as like a really shitty champion, and is slowly working his way up, and everyone's eyes. And his last little bit of buffs, I've even placed him even higher now. So putting him into tier 2, I think, is the right thing to do. But we have new champs time. Graves I've placed into tier 1. Actually, top tier 1. That might be a little too high since his recent nerfs. Even though those nerfs were like nothing, I think Graves is like almost like an AD caster. He's so his abilities are just so strong. His kit is just amazing, and I think he just dominates bottom lane. I think he is the strongest bot lane AD champion, and he's even a strong soul lane champion. If you go versus Bruiser's top, he does quite well as well. So I really feel I do like him as the first place pick because I do think he's the strongest overall pick in the game because he adds so much utility. He's got great damage. He's got fantastic burst, and he's got some survivability as well built in. So he's really just all around fantastic champion. So I think top tier 1 really suits him. Xerath I placed into tier 2. Xerath's poke is disgusting. The problem with that is he can be countered in lane. I think he's like team fight wise. If you're decently fed and you're really good, I think Xerath is like one of the best champs in the game with his poke utility and the damage he can just deal from such a far range. But is his laning phase it really isn't the greatest. It's good, but it could be better. So that's why I'm putting him only in tier 2 and not tier 1. His team fight is definitely tier 1, but his laning phase I think could use some work, so he's only going to be placed into tier 2. Shyvana I placed into hard to place because she's like an Udyr or a Skarner, but does even less. Like I don't feel that she does more damage than them, even though she probably does. And I don't feel that she adds like any utility to anything. Her ganking isn't that strong. She's not like I don't know. I just don't feel like. I think she's almost like old Skarner. Like she doesn't do anything. She truthfully doesn't do anything. Like the dragon, jump thing. She's got some cool ass looking abilities. Like great job for the art team, but she really just doesn't do anything other than like kill stuff decently fast, and she's not like overly tanky. She's not, you know, overly DPS, but she's not really anything. She's, again, like, what does she do? She turns into a dragon, but then doesn't do anything. It just dies. I really don't think she's going to be seen at any time in competitive play. If she does, I'll be shocked. And you know what? If she turns out to be good, then I guess I'm wrong. But in my initial reaction to seeing her and what she can do, I really don't think she's, you know, worth it whatsoever. So I am placing her into a hard to place on the team. This has been my draft mode update for Shyvana patch. And yeah, I hope you guys liked it. And I'll do another one next Monday because it took me so long to do this. And I'm going to move a lot of these champions around because I feel, the lower tiers could use some work. Even tier 2, I got to move them around a little bit more. And a little bit in tier 1. So I'll have another update like this for you guys in about a week.